When I meet with CEOs, founders, and heads of marketing, one of the very first things that we are talking about generally is increasing the number of leads that organization is getting. As we dig in, we oftentimes realize that they're missing out on one of the highest ROI marketing activities and channels available with what we're going to talk about today in the behind the scenes clip that I'm bringing to you from the AI marketing makeover series, which we do in our MindShift Inner Circle, which is an exclusive group. And this particular event was held so that we could really start getting business owners, marketers who are superficial and starting to lean into what they can do with AI. We are bringing and applying our playbook to AI and helping them accelerate faster. One of the things we're going to talk about today is if you ignore what we're doing in today's module, then everything you're doing on social media and Google and content and ads are going to only produce so much in results. And the strategy we share today in this AI marketing makeover segment will help de-risk, right? De-risk everything you're doing in your strategy and really help you increase the ROI, which is one of the top 4 complaints that we are often trying to solve for a customer when they come in and work with us. And so today's segment, we'll talk about what I think is the highest performing channel still to this day amongst all the hype of all the other things going on out there. The most valuable reason why this works, and it ties right into human psychology. You don't have to be a psychologist to understand that. I'm certainly not. And we provide you some very, very actionable next steps on what you can do with the help of AI and instantly take your conversions, your revenue generation, your customer acquisition, and your ROI to the next level. If you would like to get the entire AI marketing makeover workshop that was held exclusively for our MindShift Inner Circle members, then you can get it for free by clicking the link somewhere below this audio or video. We'd love to have you inside the MindShift Inner Circle, and I hope you get a lot of value out of today's episode, and we'll see you soon. And of course, now we're talking about my favorite topic ever, and until I'm proven wrong, email is the highest producing return on investment channel you will ever use in digital marketing. It isn't Google Ads. It isn't SEO. It isn't Facebook organic. It isn't Reels. It isn't TikToks. I'm telling you, as I said earlier in the class, the number one asset you can have is a very strong website that you own, so that you always have a place on the internet that no one can take from you. Just so you also know, just today, my ad account was frozen on Facebook after generating 170 leads because we spent a few more dollars than my credit card company cared for us to spend. So they refused to pay Facebook, and then Facebook shut my account down. I'm like, oh my geez. All because I've got to get on customer service and make sure they raise my limit, et cetera. Just silly stuff. But your website you own, and number 2 is your email list. So after you generate a lead, those 150 people that came into our world last month, I can communicate now with them anytime I want, provided they want to engage with our emails. Okay. So email, by the way, I think the studies say, I'm not the person who keeps up with all the studies, but it's somewhere between 36-1 rate of return and 42-1 on most of the big industry websites that keep up with the data. HubSpots, the Constant Contacts of the world, the MailChimps of the world, the biggest email platforms on the planet. So that being said, after someone comes in your world, here's the problem with social media. And most people still don't get this, so I'm just going to say it. I know you probably get it, but let me just repeat it. The vast majority of what you post on social media doesn't get seen by the people you'd like to have see it. Because social media organic algorithms only show your content to 2, 3, 4, or 5% of the people even following you. In fact, today, if you do videos and you post them as Reels or TikToks or YouTube Shorts, in most cases, when you look at your analytics, 97% of the views came from people that don't even follow your brand. That's okay in the grand scheme.
But when you're trying to convert a sale, let's say you've got an e-commerce brand and you've got something on sale and you're posting about the sale. Well, the vast majority of people are not going to see it. So where are they going to see it from? They're going to see it from email. Whenever I come into a brand, whenever I come into a campaign, the first place we start is email. When I have this meeting this afternoon with this CEO and their number two person, we have one conversation for literally the next 4 to 6 to 8 weeks. And that is they have 110,000 people on their email list. 50 something thousand of them are not paying attention to the emails, and the other 50 something thousand of them are. That's two different buckets of assets that we can now start to leverage long before we start writing new ebooks and new checklists and new webinars and new things. We have an asset of people who haven't converted yet. Some of them are paying attention, some of them are not. And we use email, and we'll also use a little bit of advertising, but this is what we're talking about. So lead nurturing is what it's called. I call them sales campaigns. Some people call them drip systems. Some call them email follow-up, whatever it is. You're executing that both through email and through social media ads. I'm not going to get into social media ads relative to email. It's a little bit more of an advanced strategy, but if you hang around us long enough, we'll certainly cover it in a workshop at some point soon. But again, email for me is the natural progression of a relationship after someone comes into your world digitally, right? It doesn't cost you much to keep in touch with them, and you can do it in what I call one to many, which is the most leveraged way. It's the number one way. When I first came online in 2003, it was the first thing I did was build a very robust email nurturing campaign for anyone who came into my world. I had a way to keep in touch with them. And I often tell the story back then in the mortgage industry that I remember closing this one loan, this deal. Mike and I were in the same industry. And the person had been on my email list for about 33 months before they ever chose to do business with me. And it was just going back to BANT, their timing was off. And I couldn't change that. So when I realized that I can't change some of those factors, I focus on the A in BANT. All I care about when I wake up every day is, do they believe that I can help them when they're ready? That's the question I solve for in marketing. Do they believe that I can help them, me, my company, et cetera? And if I'm working for a client, do they believe that we're the person to help them when they're ready? I don't care when ready is. A mentor of mine says there's only 2 times people choose to buy, now or later. Vast majority of people, it's later. And so the question is, can we use email effectively to be there when later happens? So I tell this other story, and now I have a record. I have a record of how long someone's been on my email list before they bought from me or hired me. And that record now sits at 5.5 years. Someone came into my world in 2017-ish, and he was owning a different business, or he wanted to start a different business. He came into our world at the agency. I don't remember exactly how much and how he interacted, but he's in our database starting at some point in 2017. He just became our customer in September of 2023. And guess how many interactions I've had with him physically or face-to-face or via Zoom, as it would be, in that 5.5 years? Nothing but email. And when he called, or when he booked the meeting and said, hey, I wrote a book and I'm trying to do a product launch and this and that. And he said, can you help me? I'm like, yeah, we can help you. I'm like, I seem to think that we had a conversation some years ago. And I look back in the data and he was like, yeah, I was doing this other business in the coffee space, but I've been getting your emails ever since. And I knew that once I got this book ready, I needed to talk to you. That's the power of email. It happens silently. It happens on their terms. And anybody who doesn't do it is losing and leaving money on the table. I hope everybody here heard me loud and clear. I don't mean to be screaming that one, but that one is one that I'm still just surprised at. A, we're not getting people on our email list. And B, when I come on someone's email list, I just monitor how many times they communicate with me to build trust in the BANT formula, right? In the BANT formula. Do I believe they're the person to help me? And it's so funny how people just won't do this. In our agency, we send 3 emails a week. I'm not saying that's the cadence you have to send. But there's just not a business I've ever come across that shouldn't send at least one email per week to their database and have that segmented accordingly. If you look at most e-commerce brands, um, I bet you if I went and checked my email, I probably get 4 emails a week from Adidas. I probably get 7 emails from the pizza place that we buy from up the street, called Marcos. I don't know if you're in Vegas, but Marcos is here. They're all over the place. But they probably send me an email every day to tell me about pepperoni pizzas being $7.99 or whatever. And I don't get irritated because the day that I want one, I know I've got a coupon sitting in my inbox. Anyway, I don't want to get off on a tangent, but email is the ticket. Let's move through this next exercise quickly. I think everybody's got the hang of this. Subject lines, big opportunity with subject lines. I got to tell you, back in the day when we wrote these subject lines, and if you go to look at major media companies, when they were writing articles, they were writing PR, they were writing press, they were writing news stories. If you go look at some of the biggest brands, their writers had to write 25 headlines before they could even begin to think about the right headline for that article. If you Google that, you will find there were publishers that required their journalists to come up with 25 headlines for every one article they were going to write and publish in the newspaper. And think about it. I mean, by the way, that exercise is really hard unless you're really in that business. But even if you're in the business, it's hard. Writing headlines today, you can get so much ideation. So here's exercise 1, fairly straightforward. Think of one of your email campaign topics, or go back to your lead magnet and pull one of those topics in and ask it to give you some suggestions around that topic. Nurturing sequence, same thing. One of the best things you can do in marketing. Think about your product or service that you want to promote and have it outline a 5-part, 5-day basic email sequence for your product or for your service. That's another great one, because that's oftentimes like, what am I supposed to write? What's the outline look like? What does it feel like? One little quick tip on that is, after you get the outline, and let's say you get the outline and you get to a title that you like, a subject line that you like, then further ask it to outline the bullet points that should be covered in the email if you just don't call yourself a writer. And then a third option would be calls to action, like calls to action in emails, calls to actions on web pages. So often we forget, like, we have to ask people to do something. We have to ask people to go ahead and opt in. We have to ask people to go ahead and buy. We have to ask people to go ahead and do the thing that we know will get them to their end result. Hit the subscribe button so you can become a part of the MindShift community. We'll help you shift your mind so you can shift your results.